An elderly woman packed her bags, thinking her daughter was taking her to live out her final days in a nursing home. But when the car turned down a different street, everything changed. Margaret had lived a full life. At 82 years old, she'd raised 3 biological children, adopted her daughter Emma when she was just 6, and had been a pillar of her community for decades. But time has a way of catching up with all of us. Her husband had passed 5 years ago. Her knees weren't what they used to be. And lately, even simple tasks like cooking dinner or climbing the stairs felt like running a marathon. She knew what was coming. She'd seen it happen to her friends, one by one. The concerned conversations, the careful suggestions, and finally, the move to a nursing home. When Emma called that Tuesday morning and said they needed to talk, Margaret's heart sank. She knew this conversation was coming. Emma had been visiting more often, asking questions about her medications, her doctor's appointments, whether she was eating enough. Margaret wasn't stupid. She could read between the lines. That Friday, Emma showed up with an empty suitcase. Margaret had already been crying for 2 days straight. She'd walked through every room of the house she'd lived in for 40 years, touching the walls, remembering birthdays and Christmases, the sound of children's laughter echoing through the hall. She looked at the garden she'd planted with her late husband, the roses that bloomed every spring without fail. This was her home, but she also understood. Emma had her own family now, her own life. Taking care of an elderly mother was too much to ask. Emma helped her pack, and Margaret noticed her daughter's eyes were red too. They didn't talk much. What was there to say? Margaret folded her favorite dresses, packed her photo albums, and took one last look at the bedroom she'd shared with her husband for 35 years. When they loaded the car, Margaret couldn't even look back at the house. It hurt too much. The drive started in silence. Margaret stared out the window, watching her neighborhood disappear behind them. She thought about the nursing home. Would she have her own room? Would the food be terrible? Would she make any friends? Or would she just sit in a chair all day, waiting for the occasional visit? She'd heard stories. Some places were nice, sure, but others. She'd seen documentaries. She'd heard the horror stories from friends who'd put their parents in homes. The loneliness, the feeling of being forgotten. But then something strange happened. Emma took a turn that didn't make sense. Margaret had looked up the nursing homes in the area, and none of them were in this direction. They were heading back toward the center of town, toward the neighborhood where Emma lived. Margaret's heart started beating faster. Was Emma taking her to a different facility? One she hadn't researched. They pulled into a driveway, and Margaret's confusion turned to shock. This wasn't a nursing home. This was a house. A beautiful, single-story house with a ramp leading up to the front door, wide doorways, and a garden in the front yard that looked suspiciously like the one Margaret had just left behind. Emma turned off the car and looked at her mother with tears streaming down her face. "Mom," she said, her voice shaking, "you're not going to a nursing home. You're coming to live with us. We built this." Margaret couldn't speak. She just stared at the house, then back at Emma, then at the house again. Emma got out and opened Margaret's door, helping her to her feet. "We've been planning this for 8 months," Emma explained as they walked toward the house. "Remember all those times I asked about what you needed? Your medications, your doctor visits. What made you comfortable? I wasn't trying to ship you off somewhere. I was designing a home for you." When they walked inside, Margaret's legs nearly gave out. The entire house had been built with her in mind. There were grab bars in all the right places, a walk-in shower with a bench, wider hallways for easy movement, and even heated floors, because Margaret's feet were always cold. But it wasn't just accessible, it was beautiful. The walls were painted in her favorite colors. There were photos everywhere, pictures of the family, of her late husband, of memories they'd made together. And then Emma opened a door to the backyard, and Margaret completely broke down. There, in the garden, were rose bushes, the exact same type she'd grown at her old house. "I transplanted them," Emma said softly. "I couldn't let you leave them behind." But here's the thing that makes this story even more powerful. Emma wasn't wealthy. She and her husband were working regular jobs, raising 2 kids of their own. Building this house meant sacrifices. It meant taking out loans. It meant working extra hours. It meant putting their own dreams on hold. But Emma never hesitated, because Margaret had done the same for her. You see, Emma had been in foster care when Margaret adopted her at age 6. She'd been bounced around from home to home, never feeling like she belonged anywhere. And then Margaret, who already had 3 kids of her own, saw this scared little girl and said, "You're mine now." Margaret didn't have much money back then either. She worked 2 jobs to make sure all 4 kids had what they needed. She went without so Emma could have dance lessons. She wore the same coat for 10 years so Emma could go to college. Emma told her mum all of this as they walked through the house together. "You gave me a home when I had nothing," Emma said. "You gave me a family You gave me love. Did you really think I was going to let you spend your final years alone in some facility? You're my mom. This is where you belong. Margaret moved in that day, and here's what happened next. Living with Emma's family didn't just give Margaret a place to stay. It gave her purpose again. She helped with the grandkids, reading them stories and teaching them how to bake. She tended to her roses, which bloomed better than ever. She was surrounded by love and laughter every single day. Her health actually improved because she wasn't depressed and isolated. She had reasons to get up in the morning. This story spread through their community and then online because Emma's sister posted about it on social media. It went viral because it touched on something so many people are dealing with right now, the question of what to do with aging parents. In America alone, there are over 10 million adults providing care for aging parents, and that number is expected to double in the next decade. The average nursing home costs over $7,000 a month, and many families simply can't afford it. But even for those who can, there's this nagging question. Is this really the best option? Studies have shown that elderly people who live with family members, when it's a healthy and supportive environment, tend to live longer and have better mental health than those in facilities. They feel valued. They feel connected. They're not just existing, they're living. But our society has normalized the idea of putting parents in homes because we're all so busy, so stretched thin, that we can't imagine any other option. Emma found another way. It wasn't easy, and it required sacrifice. But she made it work. And Margaret got to spend her remaining years not in a sterile room with strangers, but in a home filled with the people she loved most. This story isn't just about one family. It's about how we think about aging, about family, about what we owe to the people who raised us. Margaret gave Emma a home when she needed one most, and Emma returned the favor when it mattered most. The next video is going to show you another story that'll restore your faith in humanity. So make sure you click it.